Your story
matters.
matters.
There's hope.
There's love.
There is strength. There is power.
There is resilience in your story.
There's so much courage. There's empowerment in your story.
Your story matters. And your story matters to others.
Your story matters.
Your voice matters.
Your healing, your journey.
Your pain matters.
You matter.
Your story.
Your story
It's incredible.
It's unique.
It's not over.
it matters.
Your story is still being written.
Hi, my name is Kit Sumner. I am proud to put forth a $10,000 matching dollar amount for this $90,000 fundraising event. I have to tell you that the weekends of recovery for me were life-changing. It's just incredible what they do and what they're able to accomplish. As a lot of people know who have attended these weekends, they are in the most pristine sort of spiritual settings, and the care and attention from the professionals that run them is just extraordinary. I think without question, it is really interesting to see how these weekends have continued and the success of them. There's nothing that I think can help a person in their journey from being a victim to someone who is able to escape from the hooks of that into a whole different life that they can explore and enjoy. I hope that you'll join me in matching this amount and help continue with the success of this incredible program, these incredible weekends of recovery. Your story matters.
Everyone, my name is Emiliano Diaz de Leon. I work as the Men's Engagement Specialist with the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault and a proud member of the Board of Directors of MenHealing. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome you tonight and to thank you for joining us as we celebrate 20 years of healing. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Kit for his generosity. And I'm confident that you will help us reach our ambitious goal of raising $90,000 in 90 days. We are so close to reaching our goal today of matching Kit's generous donation of $10,000. As of right now, as of this moment, we've raised $9,100. So any of you who are watching this live or watching this recording can give to help us reach that $10,000 matching gift. So in the link in the chat, you will find the link to donate. And so I want to encourage you to just take a moment and to give if you haven't already, to help us to raise that final $100 to or more to reach our 90,000. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And we're so happy that you can be with us tonight as we celebrate 20 years of healing.
is Jim Struve. I'm the Executive Director of MenHealing. I'm also a member of the facilitator team.
So I'm Dr. Howard Fradkin. I am the one of the co-founders of the Male Survivor Weekends of Recovery.
My name's Paul Matherney, 55. I went to my first weekend about 20 years ago, and currently work on a large research project at Ohio State University, and I also just started pursuing my Master's of Public Health a little less than a year ago. So I'm pretty excited for the developments coming along with that.
My name is John Walker. I was a medical school physiology professor for almost 32 years, and have now been retired for 20 plus years, and have been working on my recovery continuously since my first weekend of recovery.
My name is Kenton Kirby. I am a licensed clinical social worker in New York State. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I've been on the facilitator team for maybe 3 years, and I love being a part of the MenHealing team.
My name is Timothy. I live in the beautiful city of Chicago, and I attended my first weekend of recovery in September, so that's about 2 months ago now, and just really sort of getting started on my, I'll call it my formal healing journey.
My name is Michael Gwynn. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm 57, and I'm a social worker here in Dallas, Texas.
I'm Uma Dorn. I'm a licensed psychologist and currently in Salt Lake City, Utah. I have been working with MenHealing going on maybe 4 years. I was initially on the board and then moved into the facilitator team, and I've been working with the organization on their research and program evaluation project.
Well, I was doing volunteering for the Rape Recovery Center in Salt Lake City, and the coordinator pointed out to me that they were aware that I was a survivor, and they pointed out to me that a flyer about weekends of recovery at Alta. So that's how I found out about it. So I immediately signed up and went up and got started.
Found out about it. I had gotten into recovery from substance abuse, and everything that I had been self-medicating kind of came up. So I started therapy, and it was through my therapist, Howard Fradkin, at the time. He mentioned this weekend coming up, this first weekend, and I was not willing at first to even consider the thought of spending a weekend working on this stuff, but I'm so glad at his gentle suggestions, and that I eventually agreed and went. So that was in my mid-30s, so 20 years ago.
I've been searching for quite a while for something that's intentionally designed and something that is intensive in its approach to recovery. So my journey started with participating in a research study through Yale University that I found out about because one of the faculty members at a university where I teach is one of the principal researchers on that project. So through my participation in that study, the Connect study, I found out about MenHealing. I found out about Weekends of Recovery, and actually one of our facilitators is an alumnus of Weekends of Recovery. And so ever since he mentioned it, sort of in our session, I had that curiosity, and the stars aligned, and I was able to attend in September.
I was working with Dr. Josie on another project, the Texas Storytelling Project here. And she reached out to me and thought I would, be good for this project because of my, how I told my story in the previous work we had done. And the rest is history. I've been involved and continue to be involved in all things MenHealing, except for the weekend recovery. I hopefully can make one of those, but that's how I came to MenHealing.
Many, many more men learned about them. And so we went from having 7 or 8 men to having 15 to eventually having 30 in a weekend. So we had many more men who found out about us. I think we recruited a lot more very skilled people who together. We really worked on team cohesion, and that was really powerful and important. And we learned more and more about all the different ways that we could make the weekends more powerful. We incorporated as many modalities as we possibly could, from movement, play therapy, recreational therapy, art therapy. Many men, probably most men, come into the weekend with either a great deal of shame or some degree of shame. And I think over the course of the weekend and once they leave, that shame dissipates. It heals, because shame really manifests itself most powerfully when somebody is all alone and they don't have people to talk to and they don't have somebody to validate them and give them support. So when they do, then that shame can heal.
I think we create a sense of connection that's not just rooted in the work of trauma, but the work of healing, right? And so really moving from, we laugh, we connect, we play together. And I think that really gets mirrored in the men's work as they are going through the weekends.
So since coming back from my weekend, I've been able to lean on this completely new support network of people who, our experiences aren't identical, but a lot of the things that we struggle with, a lot of our symptoms, a lot of the ways that we see the world are really similar. So I have this network of 5 different men who to me are all now brothers. We tell each other we love each other, we're really close and connected.
I think it starts with how we prioritize safety. So the men are able to be anxious and nervous and uncertain. And I think while prioritizing safety in our activities and how we are transparent in our conversations with the men at the very start, from our intake, when we first have our phone conversations with them, preparing for the weekend, we are always prioritizing safety.
I can't overstate how important it was to be in a safe place to be able to start exploring everything that was going on with me and being able to put words to my story, which just hadn't been possible up to that point, and to be in that safe space with men who I was always in some ways scared of, just hearing the different experiences. I think I came into the weekend still with a lot of shame about being gay and blaming the abuse for my sexual orientation, but then finding out from men at the weekends of recovery that there were people from all across the spectrum who had been abused, and that one, I didn't have anything to be ashamed of, and 2, I didn't have anything to blame it on, that there was no need to blame. And that was a big turning point for me to be able to accept that. And then I did a presentation here in Columbus about MenHealing, and that turned into a support group that met for a couple of years every month. So a group of us in Central Ohio, about 5 men who would get together once a month and just check in with each other. And that was just paramount to continue this process. I think in the beginning I wanted an easy, quick fix, and that wasn't going to happen, and it was, which is fine, but to be able to have that support group to be able to lean on through the longer process was just really special.
I grew up with my biological parents, but was essentially an orphan because of the way I was treated by my parents. And so I was always isolated and was really a loner. And the first time I walked into Alta and saw this group of men, I felt like I had finally found a home. And so I'm so strong on peer support with good facilitators. And that's what MenHealing has, what the weekends of recovery have done for me is that just, being with peers and breaking the isolation, and then having the facilitators help me deal with my problems, and most of which I was really not aware of before they before I got involved with the weekends?
For me, it was, a tremendous sense of support and community. It was not having that sense of being isolated or feeling alone. And obviously, some brand new brothers and friends and people that you can talk to and connect with. And that kind of reinforces everything that I've learned about recovery on my journey to healing.
I think one of the powerful things about the weekend is that it really is an experience. It's not just going in and having a service delivery of 10 steps to get better or 5 things to do, this, that. The experience and the team really is the experience, because over the years, what we give the guys, because so many of them come from either dysfunctional or abusive backgrounds, maybe lots of violence, and they really get the experience of seeing people who collaborate, work together, care about each other, and our transparency to just be ourselves, be human. So we're not these lofty clinical providers, we're really engaging with the men.
I can see a visible change in the men from day 1 to day 3. They look different, and that healing process is accelerated in some ways. And to be able to see that, it gives me a lot of hope in my work that I do with individual clients in the therapy process.
I think for me, the best way to describe it is that the weekends were, especially that first weekend, with the help of the facilitators and all the men there, it really, I think maybe I went wanting a fix and wanting direction, like how to do things right in order to exist in this world. And what I feel like the weekends started me on was this, it opened the door and showed me the possibilities of my life. And then I could choose to walk through that door into those possibilities and find a path that was right for me. And I had never felt that way before. So I think that encompasses empowerment, that I left feeling like I could see the opportunities and the options rather than being so much of my thinking and actions dictated by these forces that I had never examined before. And the joy, at so many of the weekends, with that first weekend, I remember dancing around the fire and drumming. I can't remember if that was, that must have been Saturday night, and just how amazing it was. And, if I'd seen a skit on television about men dancing around a fire, drumming, I would have laughed about it. But to experience it after walking through the weekend together and doing that, we'll always remember that, and holds such a special place in my heart.
Well, the empowerment was the ending of my isolation. And that was really empowering. And the other part of empowerment was the getting in touch with my inner child, which I had never done before. And I found that hugely empowering to get in touch with my inner child. As far as the joy, I remember one weekend, one of the group activities involved balloons, and people were, there was a huge supply of balloons, and people were running around beating each other on the head with balloons and jumping up and down and laughing and carrying on. And it was really fun, a joyful experience.
Because we've made an intentional decision to focus on hope and healing, our whole premise is to open the doors for probably more of our weekends are built around trauma resilience than necessarily focusing on the trauma. And then as a team, we, I think, recognize both from our own experience, some of us having been marginalized or oppressed in different ways ourselves, that part with what gets injured is our innocence, our joy, our happiness gets taken away from us. And we get consumed by the other part. So as a team, we come in a very respectful way of being able to be playful and enjoy and have fun with each other. And I think a lot of the men maybe don't come in expecting us to be so open to the playfulness, and then they begin to mirror it back that it's okay. And then they begin to rediscover that they have that part that was injured and that they closed off, the doors open. But I do think it starts by us being willing to model joy and playfulness rather than the doom and gloom that might come with the heaviness of doing this work. So, and I don't think it's a technique for us. I think it's genuine. I think we as a group have joy and are able to be playful with each other.
I think since I've come back from the weekend, you know, the close people in my life always, they want to know lots of details, right? And the biggest thing that I share with people about my experience is that I had this super joyous, fun weekend connecting with other men who are survivors, and sort of exactly how you phrased it, Jim. It's unexpected, right? It's sort of that kind of element of surprise of everyone getting together with this underlying thing that we all know we need to work through, and it's heavy and it's hard and complex. But like my memories are of us, you know, sitting at our meals, especially just like being silly, being fun, like funny, having a great time, building community, and just really enjoying the present moment. So that's like when I think back to the weekend, those are the memories that are, I think, burned the hardest in my memory, for sure.
What we know about trauma is that it does often disconnect us from connection, but it also disconnects us from joy. And I think central to our work is this experience of the whole person, right? That we can experience the grief and the loss that may come from trauma, but then also the joy and the exhilaration that comes from moving through that and getting into a place of healing and connection. And I really think that joy comes out of connection and the experience of that. And I do think in many ways, when we can kind of flip that healing work into the joy space, that we have that expansiveness that can really come in that healing process.
You know, I think for me, the storytelling project with MenHealing, you know, I can honestly say I wasn't expecting this sense of empowerment, but I got it. I didn't feel going into this that you know, I would experience this sense of release, this unburdening that kind of brought about this peace that gave me the possibility of joy, of normalcy. And being in that group of men who were so brave and willing to present themselves in a safe and supportive atmosphere, it really, really got me to a point where I could see, you know, the potential of me.
You know, we assume it's always just somber, right? And we're just going to sit there and focus on the somber part. But to really integrate the healing, we have to inject joy. We have to inject disappointment. We have to inject happiness. We have to inject, integrate all of these, the whole human experience, because we're trying to give our folks an opportunity to heal and be full versions of themselves. And joy is one of them.
Well, I grew up being invisible to my parents and and everybody around me, and it's difficult to come out and be public. But through weekends of recovery and working there and finding other people, that helped reduce the shame. And then finally one day, I was at a meeting where Marilyn Vanderveer was speaking, and she asked survivors to stand up, and with this big room full of women drinking their white wine at a luncheon, I stood up, and that really broke the barrier of silence for me. And I've been contributed to publications and been on television and whatnot, and I'm very free and open about what happened to me. I don't go into the details of it. I just say, you know, that I was abused by my father and one of his friends, and that's enough information. That's all you have to know about me. And then I proceed with whatever. I have no shame about it. I feel very, very upfront. And part of the reason for being upfront is being open about it helps other survivors who are still struggling to come out. And when they see somebody who is very open and free about it, I think that helps them achieve the same thing.
To now be able to be visible and speak with, like to be on meetings with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections to talk about getting MenHealing resources on the tablets of the incarcerated in the Department of Correction systems, and to similar to John, not go into details, but just be able to state on phone calls and on Zoom meetings, that I'm a survivor, and goal is to get this information into the hands of people who haven't heard it and might benefit from it. And that brings me a great sense of purpose and joy and serenity. And when you mentioned having the courage to be visible, it is courage, because I can't say I do it without fear. It's just that I'm able to move through the fear and be able to see not only the good that it brings to others, but the good that it brings to me, to continue to be visible and not hide.
For me, I realized that with all these years that I was working in social services, that I had become a master at hiding in plain sight. I figure, all my work with youth and rescuing people from situations and domestic violence and child abuse and all the prevention and all the events and platforms I created for people to tell their stories, I was able to latch on to those as, okay, I'm helping other people tell their stories. So, I don't have to tell mine. People will get that because I'm so, aggressive in pursuing platforms where we talk about sexual assault, where we talk about rape, where we talk about, men not being willing to share their voices, that maybe they'll get it. They'll see me as an ally. And then it wasn't until I was a part of MenHealing, the storytelling project, that I realized how important it was for me to share my story, to share my voice, that I didn't have to hide, that I need to be visible, because the longer someone like me, who is always in the public, I'm doing film and doing all this other stuff, it's really more valuable for people to see me not willing to be upfront about what happened to me, what happened to the men in my family, and how important it is to to keep that conversation open and out there, so that other men will be willing to tell their story. So that's what I gathered from my me being a part of the MenHealing storytelling project.
Being public about being a survivor is very new to me. I would say I'm about a month and a half in, where and for me, kind of the moment was making a post on social media about my experience going to a weekend of recovery. And that was the first time that I really owned it, claimed it, and spoke out about it on, for me, social media is a pretty public platform. So that's new for me. I'm still learning sort of what it's like to be in this space. I have noticed that every time I share a little bit more, or every time I share with a different audience, all I get is support and love back, right? So the many, many years of hiding in shame and being scared and all of that, I've been able to show myself little by little that, being public about it, speaking out, is the right step for me. And even within, my family environment, I've seen that it started really important conversations that I think will help really break sort of generational trauma that we've dealt with for years and years and years.
Yeah, I just want to say that visibility for me also carries a responsibility. That responsibility, can be a weight. It can be a burden. But, when you have a support system, through MenHealing, I'm assuming through the weekend of recovery, then being visible, that responsibility is not as heavy. So I'm learning how to carry that responsibility.
It's so hard to encapsulate because it's so momentous. But one of the things I would say is that my ability to trust has increased so much since participating in this, and trust in myself, trust in the world. I remember at the first weekend where the facilitators would do the large paper and kind of the ground rules and what did the participants need in order to feel safe. And after that list was complete and the facilitators said, "We will honor this," I remember getting angry because my first thought was, "You are lying. You are not going, you will betray." And to move beyond that to where I am now and be able to trust people, that's another one of the big things that really sticks with me.
I would say to someone, if I'm just looking at me and what I would want someone to say to me would have been, and I waited 50 years to say anything about what had been done to me. But what I would have said to that younger me, so that person wouldn't have to wait 37 years or 60 years or 50 years, is that the shame goes away eventually. The value of being free from the burden of hiding in plain sight diminishes that shame, and it makes the value of being free higher, makes you feel better, freer. It's always gonna be, a little bit of apprehension, a little bit of, embarrassment, but it goes away. You don't have to feel that way, and you're not alone in feeling that way. And that the way you feel is natural. We all felt that. But in order to get back to some sense of normalcy so that you can find joy and peace, just know that that's going to happen, but it's a process. And that's what I would have told me a long time ago in order to help me get here faster.
My number one thing is find a peer group with a facilitator. And that's the way to get started on the recovery, with a peer group, with people with whom you can share.
I realized that no matter where I was in this healing journey, that progress can be made today, right? That no matter what my circumstances are, I can make progress starting today. It won't resolve all of my problems and worries right away, but there are steps that I can take every single day to sort of move the process forward. It took me a year to get to a place where I felt strong enough and confident enough to attend a weekend of recovery. And that process itself was important, right? That process of understanding that I can choose my path. I can choose whether I want to look at this part of my past, how deeply I want to look at it. And so far, I'm really proud of those choices. And Weekend of Recovery has been a really huge catalyst to making me feel like I can continue this process of healing and of recovery.
On a personal level, I think the world seems so crazy sometimes, and the world seems so, how are we ever going to deal with all these issues that need to be overcome and changed? And the concreteness of seeing the change that we're making within the arena that we're working and the men that we're healing gives me hope to keep going. Our spirit and our love comes through. And that has been front and center the whole time we've been doing the Weekends of Recovery. Is we have heart, we have soul, and we love each other. And we're really making a difference with changing the world at the same time that we're healing men.
So powerful and so moving. 20 years of Weekends of Recovery, just amazing. I want to encourage you to share some words that come to mind about the video, sort of highlighting our work here at MenHealing. So feel free, whatever words come to mind, whatever the video inspired in you, please share it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And but that was so powerful, and so I'm so grateful to everyone who participated in that video, shared their perspective and their story. We are very fortunate to have the members of that video with us this evening. Let's keep the celebration going. You know, today is Giving Tuesday, and we have reached our goal of raising $10,000 to receive Kit's matching gift of $10,000. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, please, round of applause. You know, thank you to Michael Munson, a fellow board member, and you know, with Forge for donating that last $100 came through. And for everyone who has contributed today, we really appreciate your generosity and your support. And we're really grateful for you, because we are getting close to meeting our goal of 90,000 in 90 days, but we are not quite there yet. So want to encourage you to continue to give. And again, thank you so much for giving this evening and helping us reach this ambitious goal of 90,000. So I'm very fortunate to be joined by the members of the video. And so thank you so much for joining us this evening. Again, for sharing your perspective and your stories. And so I want to start with Dr. Howard. So as a co-founder of the Weekends of Recovery, what do you envision for the next 20 years of the Weekends of Recovery? So, you know, it's amazing. We're here tonight celebrating 20 years of healing. What do you envision for the next 20 years?
My hope is that men will continue to feel safe enough to keep coming forward. I have just watched the organization blossom and grow and diversify and have all sorts of different ways of reaching people, both through the storytelling, through the weekends, through the days of recovery. And I'd just like to see that continue to expand. I'd like to see this expanding this financial base is so important, because so many survivors do not have the financial resources to be able to come to a weekend of recovery. And I'd love in the next 20 years, in the next year, in the next 5 years, for these weekends and the days of recovery to be accessible to absolutely anyone. We've had a good scholarship program, but it's been limited. So it's very exciting to think about anybody who wants to be at a weekend could be there.
So true. And that's why it is so important, you know, for that's why your support of folks who are watching live and who are going to watch this recording later on, your support is so critical, so that we can make that possible, so that anyone who wants to participate in a weekend of recovery can and have that experience. So I want to go to Paul and John. What was the most important takeaway from your participation in a weekend of recovery 20 years ago? Which is just like, it blows my mind that, again, you're with us tonight. We're really grateful for your presence and for your willingness to share your story. But like you, Paul, you shared a little bit about trust, right? Is there, after reflecting, after seeing the video, are there any other takeaways that you would share with us after 20 years of participating in the weekends of recovery?
Well, I came into weekends of recovery not trusting anybody and with a lot of fear of authorities. And that was because of the total lack of self-confidence. And what really helped me regain self-confidence was the inner child work and getting back into touch with my real self, rather than being the person that was created by the abuse. And that person was just a facade. And it was really amazing. One day, somebody else mentioned this a little while ago, that I had always felt like nobody could see me and that I was always wearing a mask. And one day after weekends of recovery, I was looking in the mirror shaving, or I don't know what I was doing. And all of a sudden I saw myself for the first time ever. And it's just, it's an amazing experience. And none of this would have happened without weekends of recovery and the help of the facilitators and being there with peers.
We see you, John. We see all of you. Thank you so much for sharing that and for being with us tonight. What about you, Paul? What are some of the additional takeaways that you have from participating in Weekends of Recovery 20 years ago?
So one of the things that struck me tonight watching this was how uncomfortable I was with the word man and men in reference to myself, and how I never identified that other than really as a little boy still in so much pain. And to hear myself referred to as a man consistently was actually uncomfortable that first weekend. But I realized, while watching this video tonight, that I don't feel uncomfortable with that anymore. And I know it's 20 years later, and I'm not sure exactly when that point came, but I just remember feeling extremely uncomfortable with that the first weekend. And I'd like to touch on trust again. That weekend, I remember I don't know what the activity was, but I felt like I couldn't participate, but I didn't want to leave the room. So I was laying behind the sofa crying. And eventually I felt safe enough to come from behind the sofa and sit on the sofa and cry. And one of the female facilitators came up and just stood next to me and breathed. And then she said, "Is it okay if I put a hand on you?" Which just made me cry all the more. And reflecting on it later, and I said yes, but reflecting on it later, I described that moment as really the first moment where I actually felt like I had given permission to be touched. And I was, 35, so it wasn't my first time being consensually touched, but I really felt the power of that, of someone asking me and me giving permission verbally. That was a big deal to me. That's another thing that came up tonight watching this.
I mean, just the powerful reflection that I imagine other male survivors who might be watching this live or the recording really are experiencing as well. So thank you for sharing those words. So I want to go to Kenton. What would you say to folks who want to work with male survivors of sexual violence, either as clinicians, as facilitators of similar programming? I think in order to continue our work here at MenHealing, we're going to continue to need individuals, like yourself, that can facilitate these weekends of recovery. What would you say to folks who are interested in doing this work, who want to volunteer with MenHealing or facilitate this kind of programming?
I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry about that. I would say one thing: bring your talent, bring your skill, bring what you bring into the work. But most importantly, bring your humility. Every time I do these weekends, I come out of them exhausted, worn out, but full. And I heard someone told me something as a practitioner, really kind of helped me shift how I do my work. Bring your whole self and not your role self. So I feel like in this work, you've got to really bring yourself into it, right? Like, I'm supposed to come out of a weekend exhausted. If I'm coming out of it and I'm not exhausted or I'm not full, I'm not really there. I'm not present. So I feel like anyone that wants to be in this work as a facilitator, a volunteer, just a peer, you've got to give yourself into it in a way that will keep you full, as opposed to burn yourself out or anything. But that's where the humility comes in. So I would say that's what I would say, because that's what I feel like I brought into this, because I walked into this with no expectations of what this would look like. I remember my first weekend, I was so nervous and I was like, what's my parts? What am I supposed to do here? And I realized, this is an organic, beautiful experience, and just kind of accept it as that. And once I did, then it was like, this is magical. Hate to use the magic, but it really felt that way, watching the transformation. So.
I mean, that's such an important part of the weekends of recovery, right? Is the team. facilitators. I think everyone has spoken to it in the video and has spoken to it tonight on the panel. So thank you so much for your work. I want to go to Uma. And I'm curious, you've worn many hats here at MenHealing, as a board member, currently as a facilitator and an evaluator. So just with that perspective, over time, what have you observed? What changes are we seeing in the male survivors who are coming through the weekends of recovery, who are doing the hard work of healing? What kind of changes are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say organizationally, I feel like there have been a lot of changes. I know the organization has been really intentional in terms of kind of reaching different communities and communities maybe that we haven't reached before. So I think organizationally, I've seen lots of shifts across the board, across the team. So that's been really awesome to see. And then in terms of from kind of that evaluative perspective, a lot of our focus groups, it continues to be this idea of connection and community that a lot of the folks talked about today, but the sense of I am not alone. That's probably the biggest theme that came out of all of our work, is that this idea that I can connect with other people. And in some ways that talk about, it doesn't have to be just around my trauma, but in lots of other ways that I can connect. And so that's been really cool to see.
For folks who are watching, you're not alone. So if you are a survivor, or if you know a survivor in your life, please remind them that they are not alone. There's an amazing community of folks here at MenHealing that are ready to support you wherever you are on that journey of healing. And so we want to encourage you to explore our website at menhealing.org and just to learn about the work that we do, and even consider attending a weekend of recovery, if you're able to. So thank you so much, Uma, for sharing that. I want to go to Michael. Michael Gwynn, I imagine I can hear you, but I can't see you. But thank you so much for being with us this evening. A wonderful friend and colleague who I got to know through TASA's Men's Story Project, and was really thrilled to see you here at MenHealing participate in the MenHealing Men's Story Project. And so, Michael, what has been the response to your spoken word piece called My Brother's Keeper? If you have not seen My Brother's Keeper, you could go to our YouTube channel and watch it there from the MenHealing Men's Story Project. Encourage you to watch it and to share it. It's such a powerful piece. But what has been, I'm curious, because you haven't just shared that piece, you've shared other spoken word pieces about your own experiences as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. How have people responded to your story?
Well, first of all, thank you, Emiliano, for being here and hosting this, and thank you to MenHealing and the Men's Storytelling Project and to TASA. The response has been mixed. I'm connected still to two of the abusers, and they've seen the story and tried to reach out to me. I haven't been able to contact them and tell them how I feel, not yet. But for everyone else, it's been tremendous support and hope and just renewed dignity from being able to be free from that. But it's been mixed, but I'd say maybe 70-30. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you finding me, and for Jim and for Jordan and for Dr. Lara, everybody that was involved that helped me come out of my shell. It's been a tremendous thing. So thank you so much for that.
No, thank you, Michael, for sharing your story, and for all the other survivors that have shared their story here at MenHealing. It's part of a series of amazing stories from MenHealing's Men's Story Project. So if you haven't had an opportunity, you can watch all of them, and I encourage you to share them, especially with the people in your life and encourage them to continue to support the work that MenHealing is doing. It's just one great example of the kind of programming that MenHealing provides. I want to go to you, Timothy. As the newest alumnus of the Weekends of Recovery, what would you say to a man that's sort of on the fence? He might be watching this right now, and he's heard a lot about the Weekends of Recovery tonight, but really isn't quite sure whether he's ready to take that step and participate in the Weekends of Recovery. So I'm curious, what would you say to him? What would be your message to him and to family and friends who know a male survivor in their life, who they would love to see participate in the Weekends of Recovery?
So I think for someone who's on the fence, a survivor who's on the fence, I would say that my experience on the weekend was that there were people from every step of the healing, or every I don't know how to say it, every step in the healing process was kind of represented there, right? I think back to our small group, and we had one incredibly strong and brave soul who had not even really been to formal therapy to work through any of the trauma that he had experienced. We had others in the group we had another person who's been with his therapist for, I think he said 17 years, right? So like really big range of experience there. And so happy to see Uma and Jim. They were our small group facilitators on my weekend, and with their incredible support and just with the kind of support of the other members of our small group, I really think we were able to make space for everybody, no matter where they were in the process, right? And I think there's something that, I don't know, it's just, there's an understanding that the space is really safe, that, wherever you are that day of the weekend is fine for you to be there. Whatever you're feeling, whatever comes up, there is just a lot of space for it to just be. So my advice for someone who's on the fence is, try it. I saw space being made for everyone. I would hope that somebody on the fence would have a really similar experience. To families, support systems, who might know a survivor, or who think that someone could use this kind of help. I can only speak, from my personal experience, but there have been many moments in my life where I've wanted someone to see a lot of the hard stuff and say, Timothy, help yourself, like, go do this. You can do it, right? Like, I felt like I needed that encouragement. But kind of like we spoke about in the video, there's so much isolation and shame and just weird stuff that comes along with this experience. And I think a lot of that caused me to sort of be in hiding, right? So if you are part of a support system for people who have been through sexual abuse, specifically men who are survivors of sexual abuse, maybe just casually mention in a conversation to them, hey, I went to this event, or I saw this thing on Instagram, I heard of this organization, and I think they do really good work, right? Plant the seed. I think that's probably the best way that I can think of that you could show support. Also, hi, Dana, I see you too.
I couldn't think of, better advice for folks who are watching who aren't quite sure or ready. So I want to go to Jim. We heard from you in the video, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to share what the work means to you, right? I think we talked a lot about how the work has impacted others, but I really would love to hear from you about how it's impacted you. How has this work changed you? And what are you looking forward to in the next 20 years? Of not just Weekends of Recovery, but the organization.
Thanks. Yeah, and thanks to everybody who's attending this, who's watching this, to all of you who are in the video and your facilitation of this session, Emiliano. You know, this work has changed. I've been doing this for so many years, and I don't think I ever imagined, just having started with such isolation myself, I don't think I could have ever imagined such a thriving community of brothers and friends and colleagues and cohorts. And what I really hope we can continue to do is to let that shine out, because sexual victimization for males has been so invisible and so undercover, and our boldness to be this public and our boldness to create community where we don't have to hide who we are, we can be ourselves. And what I really see for our work on our organization is that we keep our heart and our soul, and that in doing this work, we always radiate heart and soul, and that we're creating all sorts of opportunities for a thriving community. Because as people heal, what's happening already, and what I want to keep seeing happening, is now that people are healing, have the hope, now can we find ways to use that in the world? And so we both need to be sensitive to the world we live in and how all the intersecting issues contribute to the victimization. And then we need to look back and see how we can make a difference and change the world. And I hope that MenHealing really can continue to model collaboration. One example, something I'm just so thrilled and so excited about, and I hope it's precedent setting for other things we're going to do. But we just this year started to do a weekend at Best Friends Animal Sanctuary. So we're taking men who are healed and healing to work with animals who need to be helped and healed. And so we're together with the animals. They're helping us, we're helping them. And I can see so many places in the world where we could be giving back and using our healing for the purpose of changing the world around us, whether it's with the environment, whether it's with people who are marginalized, feeling oppression. But I really want to see us be an agent of change externally, as well as what we're doing internally. And then just lastly, that we always be an organization where we are what we say we are, that we walk the talk, and we're transparent, and that we have no fear of being transparent because we're who we say we are. And that's going to change the world as well. So our grassroots nature, I want us to keep that. We're currently 85% supported by individual donors, not big money, not grants, no strings attached. So if we can keep that, I think we can keep our heart and soul, and we don't have to be indebted to anybody except the people who are our community. So thanks to everybody who's part of this large community now, on all areas, our board, our staff, our team, our support, all the men in the community. So it gives me joy to get up every day. I just love doing my work.
And really appreciate your contributions, like Dr. Howard, to the work of MenHealing, to all of you, to our facilitators and our survivors. There would be no Weekends of Recovery without the men who participate in them. So we're really grateful to you, and we hope, like you said in the video, Michael, that you're able to participate in a Weekend of Recovery as well someday. This is a celebration, and so I want to celebrate the fact that we have raised $500 in just the last hour. It's absolutely amazing. Folks have been so generous, whether you've given while you've been watching today's program, or folks are giving because you're sharing this event and information about MenHealing online. Continue to do that. We are not there yet. So we're counting on your support. We again have this ambitious goal of 90,000 in 90 days, and we can get there. But we can't get there without your support. So I want to thank you so much for your generosity, for being with us tonight. And I want to encourage you again to just follow us across social media, to encourage your family and your friends to share with them what you learned about MenHealing tonight and the work of that we do at the Weekends of Recovery, and encourage them to give what they can. Your support is critical for our ongoing work. And so before we wrap up, I just want to, again, you are welcome to stick around. We are going to open it up to questions for our panelists and give you an opportunity to ask them questions. And so if you want to stick around, thank you for doing that. But we also want to respect your time. And again, thank you so much for being with us tonight and for being present and being an ally to male survivors of sexual victimization. So thank you so much for being with us tonight.